Welcome to the Defining Moments Black Men series of the Authentic Joe Show. I'm your host, Jolena Johnson, and it's my privilege and pleasure to welcome my guest today, Mr. Maxx Myrick. How are you today, Max?
Great to be here.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Well, let's get into it. Can you tell us a little about yourself, your occupation, and your background?
Well, I'm a broadcaster. I've been a broadcaster for about 45 years, and I have built a career of building radio stations around the country, a couple notable markets, including New York, Chicago, Atlanta, DC.
Okay. All right. And when you say you're a broadcaster, I believe you started off actually using as a DJ and then you went to the operation side. Is this correct?
That is correct. I started out as a DJ back in 1977,
Okay.
77.
Okay.
And then around 1980, oh, around 1980, I became a program director for the
Gotcha.
first time. And
Gotcha. Now, this is not on my sheet for to ask you the question, but did you have a DJ name?
yes, Maxx Myrick.
Oh, okay. All right. So there's something behind there. Okay. Very good. Look at me trying to get cute. Okay. Maxx Myrick. All right. Well, Max, how would you describe yourself?
I'm a Midwesterner guy. I'm a ex-Marine, father, grandfather now. Um, Most people would consider me to be, a nice guy, fair,
Mhm,
honest.
mhm. Okay. Thank you. And if you had to pick a phrase that would be the theme for your life, what would that be?
You'll probably be the road less traveled
Okay. All right. And why would you say that?
because I've had some crazy journeys. I mean, my life. I started
Mhm,
out, from very humble beginnings,
mhm,
and I wound my way through things that I could never have imagined back.
mhm,
Um, just, I mean, who would think? I mean, no, Oprah Winfrey was my neighbor.
mhm,
That kid from the projects would never have dreamed of living on Lakeshore Drive or having a brownstone in Mount Morris Park in Harlem. It's just crazy things that have happened to me that I never would have imagined, but I'm, appreciative of all of the things that have happened to me.
All right, that's wonderful. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. A lot of people may say, well, what is a defining moment? So let me share it. A defining moment is a point in life when a pivotal decision must be made or when an experience fundamentally changes a person. What defining moment would you be willing to share with us today?
Well, um, I mean, there have been several. I mean, the birth of my children was a defining moment.
Mhm,
Uh, but other than that, my career, there have been defining moments in my career. Early in my career, I had to make a decision of whether I was going to be serious about it or not. I mean, I said I wanted to do it, but at a certain point, I had to make a decision that this is what I wanted to do by any means necessary and at all cost. And that's what I did. I just never gave up. And I set a goal and I just worked toward that goal. I had setbacks along the way,
mhm,
but uh, I never stopped.
mhm.
Sometimes a couple of times I've had to, I mean, step way back, but I always kept that goal in mind until I, got to it. And, you know, those were the defining moments.
Okay, so you were kind of talked around it, but you didn't tell us exactly what happened. So, can you tell us the incident, just one in your life, in your veteran life? All right, I'm trying not to call you a senior citizen, but you seem to be okay with it.
I'm good. I'm good. I like all those discounts.
So, Can you just tell us one particular incident, activity, or experience that helped to shape your life? One particular thing.
I can tell you one. I can tell you two because
Okay.
both of them are important.
Okay.
One was, as a young man in the '70s, marijuana was a very popular thing, as it is now,
Mm-hmm.
and I was a fan, and I, you know, um, got in radio, and I had to make a decision about whether I wanted to get high or whether I wanted to do radio.
Mm.
I could not do both. And one night I was on the air high and just chaos ensued. And I got through it. Luckily, the program director was not listening. But the next day, when I listened to my tape, I realized that those two things were not going to work for me. Some people, it affects them differently. But for me, I wanted radio more than I wanted to be high. So that was in the '70s. And then a couple times I almost quit.
Mm.
One time I was in Cleveland, living in a hotel, and I almost gave up. And then I got, a call to go start a new station in Atlanta.
Mm.
Then one time I left Atlanta. I went to put a new station on in Pensacola, Florida. I was living in a hotel on the beach, which I thought was going to be great. You see that on TV. But after, a few months of living in that little room,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and hearing all those sad songs. That was the year all those sad songs came out. Another sad love song, End of the Road. Just every 3 hours, I was depressed. Too much. I can't do it anymore. And then I got a call to come back to Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the rest is history.
Mm-hmm.
So those were two or three key moments that made me realize that uh, made me realized that my commitment was firm,
Mm-hmm.
and I stuck to it, and became more successful than I had ever dreamed of.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So you've been very humble, and I appreciate it. For the point of brevity and things like that. And at the same time, you've had so many experiences. So what I do know is you've created and managed some of the biggest stations in Chicago and things like that. And you were at the radio station. I think it was WHR, the Howard station, and things like that. So, can you just tell us? And then you also started you were at Sirius Satellite Radio when it first started, and
XM
or
Center Radio.
I'm sorry, what is it? XM. Excuse me,
Mhm.
XM. So, for people who may be interested in getting into the entertainment business, because it's so different now than it was when you started 45 years ago, they may have dreams and hopes of, let me be a DJ, but
Mhm.
you or let me be a rapper. Whatever it is,
Whatever. Yeah.
what are three principles or recommendations you would give to a young person who's saying, I want to start my career today and I want to be successful?
Well, you have to first uh, determine what it is that you want to do,
Okay.
right? Then you have to figure out um, how you're going to get there. Then you have to go for it and just never give up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You make it seem so easy.
It's not easy.
Okay. Okay, so what are a few obstacles they may face along the way?
Oh, all kinds of obstacles. I mean, I got fired many times,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't my fault. Crooked radio station owners, checks bouncing, just all kinds of marital problems. Just it was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But I kept my eyes on the prize.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that by getting there, I would be able to better provide for my children,
Mm-hmm.
and I could live the life that I dreamed of living.
Mm-hmm.
Once I got introduced to things that I didn't know existed, I was like, well, I'd like that. What do I need to do to get that? So you
Mhm.
just have to keep going, and don't give up.
Mhm.
And, the deepest question you have to ask yourself is, how bad do you really want this?
Mm.
And if you really want it, there's nothing that's going to stop you from getting it, even with the obstacles. I mean, I've done crazy things, not crazy things, but I've done things in in between in this journey that I never thought I would do. I never thought I would be a car detailer working overnight at CarMax,
Mhm.
but that's what I had to do to keep going. But that did not stop me from you know getting to my goal.
Mhm. Mhm.
That was just a temporary setback, and I learned a new skill. Now my car looks beautiful.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so let's just talk about being fired.
Hmm.
You said sometimes it wasn't your fault. So I think that can be very heartbreaking, especially for men, right? To get fired.
It can be, but if the first couple, the first time, your ego's involved.
Hmm.
Sometimes, a couple times was my fault, you
Okay.
know, uh, but I grew and
Hmm.
I learned, and if you don't grow up understanding politics,
Hmm.
how it can affect you, you just go about your way. But life will teach you some lessons, jobs
Hmm.
will teach you some lessons, and you learn how to navigate that.
Hmm.
Um, and so, when it was my fault, I had to learn from that lesson, but that didn't stop me.
Hmm.
You know, I just went on. I went to the next job. Somebody, I had a talent. I believed in myself,
Hmm.
and I just kept going, and people believed in me. My track record began to, speak for itself,
Hmm.
and I'm still doing this 45 years later. Most of the people that I started with are either out of the business or dead.
Hmm.
So I'm blessed to still be able to do this. And it's not even work for me now. It's just what I love to do, and they keep paying me. So
And you have your "I'm so DC" shirt on. So can you tell us? So your current position is what? We see it.
they need to get that taxation without representation together. We need to make us a state. 51. Uh, I did about 5 years ago. They asked me to build a station for the city of Washington D.C.
Okay.
So I built a station called DC Radio,
Hmm.
and it is a station that is contains programs that are um, hosted by residents, and we have studios. We're in the original BET building where
Oh,
BET
okay.
founded,
Hmm.
and where all the shows were taped. And I mean, and so we're in that building. We have a television studio in there. We have two. We have four television stations. We have radio. We have events. It's called the DC Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment.
That's a long title.
That's a long acronym and a sea of acronyms. Um, and so I built that station. We have residents. They pitch us on shows. We
Hmm.
help them develop these shows. Those shows can be heard on um, dcradio.gov. If you're
Hmm.
not in Washington, you can hear it locally at 96.3 HD4. We're on the DC Radio app for iPhone and Android, tunein.com, and on all the major on demand platforms. So check us out
Okay.
sometimes.
That sounds great. Okay. All right. Well, before we go, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Well, it's been an honor to be on your show, Miss Johnson. And I just tell people to, keep on going. The world is wide open for you now. The internet is presenting so many opportunities for people. that weren't there before. And if you have you know, the will and the desire and the hustle, you can use that to your advantage. And the sky's the limit.
Mhm. And I believe you because I think what I heard you say is from the projects to the penthouse, even though you didn't exactly say that. So I want to.
Yeah,
So,
the name of my book.
oh, okay. We're getting a little inside scoop there. All right. Well, Max, although you didn't go into a lot of detail, I know that you are certainly very, very, very well respected, especially in the radio industry. And I want to thank you for all your hard work and dedication and the mentorship that you've given to so many people along the way. I am so glad you are actually working on your book. And I'm glad you did not tell your Prince story because it would have hurt my feelings. So, maybe another day.
Some things we're going to have to take to the grave.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Max.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.